Hi, it's Miss Mohern again. And when we left off, we were talking about cellular respiration. Plants make glucose in photosynthesis, and then they need to break it. We eat these kind of things made by plants, and then we need to break it. So plants make it and then break it in respiration. We eat it and break it. Everyone's got to break it. So how does this happen? We looked at step 1 already, called glycolysis and the lysing of glucose. We exploded glucose and made it into 2 3-carbon molecules called pyruvate. That was step 1, glycolysis. Now we're on to a really short step called the intermediate step. We know that the pyruvates were created outside the mitochondria in the cytosol. It is now time to ask, is there oxygen? If there is oxygen present, yay, oxygen, then the pyruvates may cross the mitochondrial membrane. Remember, the mitochondria has 2 membranes. It's going to cross the outer membrane. And our ultimate goal is to make this high energy molecule. Let's see if we can accomplish that. All right, so my 2 pyruvates have crossed the membrane, here depicted by dark and light orange, okay? So now what? Now one of these carbons is broken off. Ooh, why is that exciting? Because we've got electrons. Electrons are going to be picked up by NADP+. Electron? Where are you, electron? There you are, electron. And this makes it NADH, and NADH will go to the electron transport chain, okay? That is the same thing that's going to happen to the other pyruvate. Going to lose that carbon, okay? Free up electrons, and those electrons will be picked up by NADH to become picked up by NAD+, and then once it has the electrons with it, it is called NADH. Where does this go? You guessed it, the electron transport chain. Now, what about this carbon? Remember I asked you if oxygen was present? Well, if oxygen is present, then oxygens can join up with our carbon and make carbon dioxide. So here is the release of one of our carbon dioxide, so it's going to come out of our mouth. Yes. What about our other pyruvate? Yep, take that carbon off, join it with oxygen, that releases CO2. That is a byproduct. The big thing that we want are the electrons. So you can see that in step 2, CO2 is released. So that's one of the carbons from glucose. We have made NADH, which is like a piggy bank, collecting electrons to take to the electron transport chain. And now we're going to add a coenzyme, an acetyl group, to our 2 carbon, okay? And now we have acetyl-CoA, and it's ready to start the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle, ooh, what do you notice? The Krebs cycle, first of all, is happening in the matrix. That is the space in the mitochondria. Lots of NADHs and a new electron carrier will come into play here, and that is FADH2, okay? So FADH2 is also an electron carrier, which will grab electrons and take them to the electron transport chain. So these have many steps. You can see that finally all of glucose is going to get ripped up here. Acetyl-CoA is going to join with an intermediate molecule. If you want to see the nitty-gritty, ooh, you can see here. Similar to what we saw in Calvin's cycle, where citrate gets recycled, okay? We're going to see the rearrangement, the taking of carbons to free up those electrons. And in the end, we create NADHs FADH2s, all which go to the electron transport chain. Some ATPs are made in this step. We actually make 2 ATPs in the Krebs cycle, which is exciting, but not that exciting. So 2 ATPs get created in this step, and many of the carbons end up as CO2. So when you breathe out, you're breathing out the dinner that was digested and ripped up by your mitochondria. Crazy. So don't get caught up in the individual details. In college, I did have to memorize all of these, and I made myself a little story. But don't worry, that is beyond the scope of AP Bio to memorize every single intermediate step. You do need to know the big idea, okay? But now it is time for all of those NADHs and FADH2s to get to the finale, to the electron transport chain, to make 36 ATPs. Want to know how it happens? Tune in to my final video. Thank you all.